I don't know when exactly I became the dependable one. I think it was somewhere between sophomore year of college and the summer Dad's knees gave out. It wasn't a title anyone said out loud. No one gave me a medal or a thank you card. It was just assumed that I'd figure it out, step in, cover the gap. And I did. Every time. The first time they needed help, it was the mortgage. Just a couple months, they said. Mom was between jobs, and Jenna had just started her internship. Unpaid, of course. I wired the money the same night. The second time was Jenna's car. She needed it to get to her new job. She was so excited. I remember her sending me voice notes about her first big girl office. I fronted the down payment. Dad promised they'd pay me back. They never did. But I wasn't keeping score back then. I thought that's what family was. A shared web of quiet support. You lift each other. You don't hold receipts. I only started counting the cost when the wedding happened. More. Precisely when I saw the catering invoice. It was on the dining room table, under a stack of envelopes. I wasn't snooping. I had just stopped by to drop off a space heater because the guest room was cold. I picked up the mail to make room, and there it was. $9,170. Final payment received. Vendor, Ash and Ivy Catering Co. The name was familiar. I remembered Jenna swooning over their menu. They do truffle mac and cheese in tiny martini glasses, she had said during brunch. I didn't think much of it until I saw the payment note at the bottom. Paid via joint family account ending. In 8702, my stomach tightened. That was the account Dad and I set up when I started sending money monthly. An account I didn't touch. One he said was just to help with the house. I didn't react right away. I went to the kitchen, turned on the kettle, and stared at the floral magnets on the fridge. The room felt too still, like a held breath. That night I checked the statements. $10,000. My money. For hors d'oeuvres and a macaron tower. And when I asked, quietly, not even angry, just confused, Mom said, "You know Jenna's been through so much. This wedding means the world to her." As if that explained everything. I asked if they planned to pay me back. She sighed. Dad said, "It's all the same pot, sweetheart." But it wasn't. It never had been. I didn't say anything for a few days. Silence, I've found, carries more weight than anger ever could. The house group. Chat buzzed like usual. Jenna sent links to centerpiece ideas. My mother replied with heart emojis. Dad asked me to look over the rental contract for the wedding hall. "Just need your smart eyes on it, hun." I said nothing. I didn't even open the PDF. I left. His message unread. That same day, Jenna called me, bubbly and breathless. "Guess what? We're adding an espresso bar. I told Mom you'd be thrilled." Thrilled. The word hit me sideways. As if I should be grateful they were spending my savings to upgrade their fantasy. "Who's paying for it?" I asked quietly. "Oh, it's coming from the same pool," she said. "Dad said you've been amazing. Like, seriously, I wouldn't have been able to have this day without you." She meant it like a compliment. Like I was a fairy godmother, waving a wand and manifesting mushroom canapes. There was no awareness in her voice, no guilt, no hesitation, just glittering entitlement wrapped in affection. I didn't reply. That night, I looked at the spreadsheet I kept. Every transfer, every utility bill, the property tax I covered last December. It wasn't a ledger of resentment. I had never meant it to be. I just liked knowing where things stood. The balance was clear. $36,800 sent over 5 years. Not once had anyone said thank you. Not once had they offered to pay me back. But the worst part wasn't the money. It was how easily they assumed I'd keep giving. That I didn't need to be consulted. That I would show up, smile for photos, and disappear like good wallpaper. The invitation came a week later. Ivory envelope, embossed script. We request the honor of your presence. Except there was no +1. No special note. Just my name, neat and lonely, under seat 14B, extended family table. I stared at it for a long time. I counted the rows. The seating map was included. She'd placed me with cousins we barely spoke to. Near the restrooms. I didn't cry. Not then. I just shut the envelope and slid it into the drawer next to my electric bill. I hadn't said no. But I knew I wasn't going. Not out of spite. Not to make a scene. Just to finally choose me. Let them have their day. Let them toast under chandeliers funded by my silent sacrifice. Let them tell themselves I was too busy, or couldn't. Get a flight. I was done performing. And the silence this time wouldn't be confusion. It would be deliberate. A quiet, steady withdrawal. The wedding group chat kept going. I muted it. Not because it hurt. Not in the way people think. It was more like a dull echo in a room I no longer lived in. They talked about table runners, about how the color champagne doesn't actually look like champagne. Jenna sent photos from her bachelorette trip. Matching robes, white sand, pink, drinks in plastic pineapples. Mom kept replying with hearts. Dad sent thumbs ups. I scrolled past them while stirring lentils in my small apartment kitchen. The kettle clicked off. The rain was soft against the window. It felt good. Quiet. I started pulling out things I'd forgotten were mine. An old paint set. Books from college. A framed photo of me on my graduation day, still in its bubble wrap. I had found it in a box, in their garage years ago. No space left on the living room wall. But Jenna's baby ballet slippers still hung there, even after she quit after 2 lessons. 2 days later, Mom called. I let it ring. She left a voicemail. Hi, sweetheart. Haven't heard from you in a bit. Just checking in. Jenna's asking if you got your dress fitted. The bridesmaids are doing a group fitting Saturday. I wasn't a bridesmaid. That much had been clear when the first announcement came out. She had 4. Childhood best friend, cousin, a girl from college, one of her fiancé's sisters. I was listed under family support. No dress, no toast, just support. I started a new savings folder the next day. I labeled it August Escape Fund. I didn't know where I was going yet, but it would be somewhere quiet, someplace warm, where nobody would text me about Ivory, versus blush or how I needed to book a hair trial. That night, I watched a movie by myself, an old black and white one, the kind with long silences and heavy glances. There was a woman in it, elegant, distant. A character who left without slamming the door. Just walked into the night, coat collar turned up, silent and tall. I paused the screen. That's what I wanted to feel like. Not angry. Not broken. Just done. The final straw came quietly. Like they all do, it was a photo Mom posted. Counting down to the big day, she stood in the middle of Jenna's bridesmaids, all of them laughing in satin robes. Behind them was a chalkboard that said, "Thanks to the people who made this day possible." There were hearts drawn next to Jenna's fiancé's parents, her maid of honor, the caterer. My name wasn't there, not even as a whisper. I took a screenshot, not to show anyone, just to remember the moment I stopped asking for space in their lives. The next morning, I texted Dad. I won't be attending the wedding. Hope it goes beautifully. No explanation. No apology. Just the truth. Deleted the group chat entirely. And for the first time in years, I felt light. Like I didn't owe anyone anything. Not even an excuse. Dad didn't reply for 2 days. When he did, it was short. "We're disappointed. This is about family." That word again. Family. Used like a leash. I didn't respond. I didn't explain how family had become a currency they only traded when it benefited them. How my quiet help had been mistaken for obedience. How support had been stretched so thin, it snapped. Instead, I walked to the park and let myself feel everything that had gone unspoken. It was a cold morning. One of those early spring days that still bites like winter. I sat on a bench by the pond and watched a girl feed ducks with her grandmother. The woman had a soft voice. I could hear it carry. She laughed at everything the child said. It didn't make me jealous, just hollow. Not because I wanted that exact life, but because I never had it. The morning of the wedding, I didn't turn on my phone. I stayed in bed longer than usual, made pancakes, opened the windows. There was sun pouring into my apartment, the good kind, golden and warm and slow. There were no texts asking where I was, no calls, nothing. Maybe they thought I'd change my mind. Maybe they were too busy smiling for pictures. Either way, the silence was mutual. And I liked it. I lit a candle, vanilla and cedar, let it burn for hours. The wax puddled slowly, soft and melting at its own pace. Later that night, I did one last quiet thing. I logged into the joint account. The one I used to send money to. The one they used to pay the caterers, the florist, the makeup artist. I didn't say anything. I just canceled the automatic deposit. A single button. Confirm cancellation. I clicked it. It felt like closing a door without slamming it. No announcement. No warning. Just done. That night, I slept without dreams. Not because I was healed. Not because the grief had vanished, but because the noise was finally gone. 3 days passed before Jenna reached out. A single message. "Hey, so, I heard you didn't come." "No, are you okay?" "No, we missed you." Just that, brittle, accusing, half shocked. I stared at it, then locked my phone. It was the way she said heard, like I'd skipped a dentist appointment. Like it wasn't her wedding. Like I was just another guest who didn't RSVP. I didn't reply. I folded laundry instead. One of those small domestic acts that made me feel in control. I matched socks, smoothed towel corners, pressed shirts flat, with my hands like quiet rituals. The silence was stretching now, not sharp, but wide. Mom called the next day. Her voice was tighter this time. Measured. "You really hurt your sister." I didn't argue. Didn't ask how it compared to spending my savings without asking, or to being seated next to the restrooms like an afterthought. Instead, I just said, I needed space. There was a pause. Then a sigh I knew too well. The one that meant, "You've disappointed us, again." "We didn't raise you to be selfish." That part made me flinch. Selfish. I thought about every rent payment, every emergency. Transfer. Every late-night phone call I answered on the first ring. I thought about all the ways I twisted myself into someone useful. Was that what they called selfish now? I didn't cry after that call, but I did sit in the shower longer than usual. Hot, water on my back. Arms around my knees. No sobs, just breathing through the quiet ache behind my eyes, like something old was breaking loose. Something I'd been holding in my teeth for years. 2 weeks passed. No follow-ups, no more invitations, no photos sent. I knew the wedding had happened. I saw a glimpse on a coworker's Instagram. She was tagged in a photo standing near the edge of a ballroom, blurred in the background. Jenna looked happy. So did my parents. And for the first time, I didn't feel bitter. Just released. I booked a trip. Nothing dramatic. Just a quiet place upstate with a view of the lake and a fireplace. I used the money I would have spent on a dress, a gift, a hotel. When I arrived, the air smelled like pine and old wood, the kind of smell that doesn't need music or company to feel alive. I made tea, sat on the porch, watched the still water breathe. No group chat pings, no silent expectations. No role to play, just me, uninvited and unburdened. There's a peculiar kind of peace that comes from being unreachable, not the kind born from anger or blocking someone in a fit of heat, but the still kind. The kind where you don't need to explain anymore, where silence is no longer a protest, but a home. That's how the lake felt. Still, honest. No one knew where I was. And no one asked. One morning, I left my phone inside and took a walk along the shore. The wind curled around my coat, tugged at my scarf. The sun was just peeking through a veil of clouds, and everything looked silver, quiet, dignified. I thought of Jenna's honeymoon. Somewhere tropical, no doubt. Her white sandals on a wooden deck, cocktails with orchids in them, and I didn't envy her. Not her wedding, not her new last name, not her curated life full of filtered moments. I just wondered if she ever thought of me now. Not out of guilt. I wasn't seeking that. Just acknowledgement. Did she notice the gap in the photos, the chair I never sat in, the toast I never raised? That evening, I opened my journal. I hadn't written in it in months. I wrote 3 things. I was not selfish. I am allowed to choose myself. I no longer need to explain absence. Then I closed it, left it on the nightstand, lit a fire and wrapped myself in a blanket. The next morning, I got a letter, not an email, not a text. An actual letter slid under the front door of the cabin by the lodge attendant. The envelope was thin. My name on the front in Mom's handwriting. Inside, 1 page, folded twice. No greeting, no dear, just 3 sentences. We didn't realize. We hurt you so deeply. We thought you understood what family means. Come back when you're ready. I read it once. Then again. The phrasing rolled around in my head like loose change in a pocket. Not, we're sorry. Not, we were wrong. Just, you misunderstood us. As if pain was a language I'd mistranslated. I didn't write back. Not because I was angry, but because I finally understood. I wasn't waiting for their understanding anymore. The version of me they missed only existed when I gave without boundaries. When I said yes, because it was easier than saying I mattered too. That version was gone now, and I wasn't ready to resurrect her for a reunion. I put the letter in the fireplace, watched it curl, blacken, lift into smoke. There's a difference between letting go and erasing. And I wasn't erasing anything, just making room. By the 3rd morning at the lake, I stopped checking the time. I woke when the sky turned soft and gray. I ate when I was hungry. I walked, read, sometimes just sat by the window doing nothing at all. I had never realized how loud my life had been until everything fell silent. Not silent in the way of loss, but in the way of stillness. No one asked me for anything. No one needed me to show up, solve, explain, smile. It was strange how uncomfortable that was at first, the absence of usefulness. Like I didn't quite know what to do with myself if I wasn't helping. And yet, with every passing hour, that feeling unraveled. And in its place was something I hadn't known I'd missed. My own company. I walked a little further that day, past the trees lining the cabin edge, along a narrow trail crusted with old leaves and pine needles. I found a clearing. No signs, No benches, just space. I sat down on a dry patch of grass and pulled out my phone for the first time in days. It had 15 notifications. 12 of them were group photos. Someone had tagged me in an album called The Best Day Ever. I wasn't in any of the pictures, but my name was still there, hovering, a ghost in the metadata. I closed the app. I didn't feel sad, just done. It wasn't dramatic. I didn't sob or shake or feel a need to write a message I'd never send. It was more like closing a door you no longer live behind, not because it was on fire, but because it wasn't home anymore. That evening, I packed up the cabin slowly, folded the blanket I'd kept around my shoulders, washed the mug I used each morning, left a note for the cleaner. Thank you. This place gave me something I forgot I needed. Then I slid my bag over my shoulder, locked the door, and walked back toward myself. It's been 6 months. No one talks about the wedding anymore. Not out loud, not in texts. The pictures still live, online, frozen in filtered joy. But no one asks why I'm not in them. It's easier that way, I think, to let the silence cover over what was too raw to name. I haven't been back to the house. They haven't asked. Not directly. The last message Mom sent said, "We're all still adjusting. Hope you're doing okay." I didn't answer, not because I was angry, but because I didn't owe clarity to those who never offered it to me. I've moved apartments since then. Smaller, but mine. I painted one wall pale blue, bought a second-hand couch that sinks perfectly in the middle. I framed my graduation photo and hung it above the kitchen table. Jenna used to joke it was my harsh lighting photo. Now it looks like truth to me. A little too bright, a little too sharp, but honest. That's enough. Sometimes I wonder if they tell the story differently. If I'm the bitter one, the overreactor, the one who made things harder than they had to be. Maybe. But that's not my burden to carry anymore. I still get the occasional email from my dad, links to articles, tax reminders, the occasional dry line about the weather. I don't respond. But I read them. There's no malice in his silence, just confusion. He doesn't understand what shifted, and I've stopped needing him to. Jenna hasn't reached out again. Not since that one hollow message. I saw a post of hers recently. Something about letting go of people who don't support your joy. I smiled. There's a version of me she can live with. And it's not the one who chooses herself. That's fine. We're both allowed to outgrow the stories we were written into. I walked past a wedding shop yesterday. The mannequin stood still behind the glass, faceless and perfect. For a moment, I saw myself inside, holding up a dress for someone else, smiling politely, swallowing hurt. But then the wind shifted, and I kept walking. This is not a story of revenge. There were no slammed doors, no explosive final words, just a slow unraveling of roles I no longer fit into, and the quiet rebuilding of a life that didn't require permission to begin. I am not missing. I'm just not where they left me.